All right, let's get right into it. We're looking at a situation that is, and I mean this literally, teetering on the absolute edge. We're talking about a potential ground war between Iran and the United States. So in this explainer, we're going to break down the threats, the military plans, and the desperate scramble to pull back from the brink.
The message from Iran to the United States? Well, as reported in the Tehran Times, it couldn't be more chilling. It reads, "Welcome to hell." Now you have to understand, this isn't just empty rhetoric. It's a direct, very public warning aimed squarely at any U.S. forces who might be thinking about a ground invasion.
So you have to ask yourself, what on earth would provoke such a stark and, frankly, dire threat? This isn't happening in a vacuum. Iran is responding to what it sees as some serious aggression. And here's the thing, it isn't just talking, it's acting.
So let's take a look at Iran's recent retaliatory strikes. This is really the why behind their whole aggressive posture. This is their side of the action-reaction cycle that's pushing this whole region closer and closer to a major conflict. Okay, so Iran has launched what looks like a wave of attacks across the Gulf. Reports say a chemical plant in Beersheba, Israel was hit, and an aluminum plant in Bahrain was also targeted. Now, the strategy here is what's really important. These are not random acts. Iran is deliberately striking nations it believes could be used as staging grounds for a U.S. ground operation. It's sending a very clear message: if you help our enemy, you become a target. Simple as that. And the danger here was immediate. I mean, right after the attack in Beersheba, the Israeli government had to issue a public warning telling its citizens to stay inside because of the risk of a chemical leak. The consequences for civilians are very, very real, and they're escalating fast. So that's Iran's reaction. But every reaction has an action that came before it, right? So what is the American plan that's fueling all this fire? With Iran striking back so forcefully, what exactly is the Pentagon thinking that has everyone so on edge? Right, now let's flip over to the American side of this and look at the details of their proposed ground plan. According to officials, this is being framed not as a total war, but as a limited operation.
So what does limited actually mean here? Well, according to U.S. officials, this wouldn't be a massive all-out invasion. The strategy is built around a series of targeted, multi-week ground operations, and they'd likely be carried out by thousands of U.S. soldiers and Marines who are already moving into the Middle East.
The Pentagon's plan really seems to boil down to three very clear objectives. First, seize Kharg Island, which is Iran's single largest oil export hub. Second, conduct raids of strategic coastal areas right near the critical Strait of Hormuz. And third, find and neutralize any weapon systems that could threaten international shipping. You could almost call it a precise economic and military surgical strike.
And if you're wondering about the motivation behind this high-stakes strategy, well, the source points to a very, very direct quote from then-President Donald Trump: "I want the oil." That statement really cuts through a lot of the geopolitical noise, doesn't it? For the U.S., controlling this oil isn't just about resources. It's about controlling a key lever of Iran's power and its influence in the entire region. And all of this brings us to the single most critical location in this entire standoff: Kharg Island. If a ground war actually ignites, believe me, all eyes are going to be on this one spot. It is the potential ground zero. So why is this tiny island so critical? Take a look at this number, 90%. That's the percentage of Iran's total oil exports that flow directly through Kharg Island. Its importance to Iran's economy, you just can't overstate it. This is the financial lifeblood of the state, and this is the key part: it funds Iran's powerful Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. That's the elite military branch that projects the country's power abroad. So what you have here is a direct confrontation, a real standoff. On one side, you've got the U.S. objectives: capture the island to financially cripple the Revolutionary Guard, destroy the oil infrastructure, and basically choke off the funding for any bigger war. But Iran is not just sitting around. They're actively fortifying the island, laying sea mines in the water, deploying more troops, and beefing up their air defense systems. They're getting ready for a siege. Now, while these military drums are beating louder and louder, it's really important to note that this isn't all happening in a vacuum. There is a diplomatic race taking place on the sidelines, a really desperate attempt to de-escalate this whole thing. Several regional powers are stepping up, trying to mediate. Pakistan has come right out and offered to host talks between the United States and Iran. Turkey is also reportedly involved in some behind-the-scenes attempts to find a way out of this. The hope, however faint it might be, is that diplomacy can pull both sides back from the edge. But you know, despite all these diplomatic efforts, the analysis suggests a pretty grim reality. The tit-for-tat strikes and the very public military preparations might have already pushed the situation past the point of no return.
The whole conversation seems to be shifting away from the question of if war will start.
And moving toward the real and, frankly, much more unsettling question that seems to be on everyone's mind: when?